Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. We will just get started. Just a reminder, this session is recorded, although any comments will not be shared afterwards. So please do feel free to share comments and questions throughout. We will have time for Q&As at the end. So hello, I'm Lucy, and I lead the Compassionate Employers team at Hospice UK. And my job is primarily to work with organisations across the UK to help enhance their guidance and support and make sure they are equipped to support employees who may be facing terminal illness, caring responsibilities and bereavement. So you've all joined today's session as you are the organisation that you work for is a member of our Compassionate Employers programme. So you are all invited along to attend any of our awareness raising sessions throughout the year. So this one today is in aid of Carers Week, which runs throughout this year. We have a series of different kind of publications and blogs coming out this week to help raise awareness that will make sure that we circulate alongside the recording of this session. So during the session, we'll cover topics related to caring, including lightly touching on grief and bereavement. And throughout the session, I would welcome you to interact as much as you feel comfortable to in the chat box. And as I said, we will have time at the end for questions, so do feel free to jot them down and we will come to you at the end. So we're hoping by the end of today's session, it will give you a better understanding of, what is a carer, how caring responsibilities may impact us at work, how we can support employees in our teams, in our organisations with caring responsibilities. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of self-care and carers burnout, and also some signposting to additional support and further resources that you can pick up after today's session as well. Now, just due to the nature of this topic, just want to put a friendly reminder out that it's very important to look after yourselves. If you feel triggered or upset by any of the content, then please feel free to take some time out. There is going to be a recording of this session, so if you woke up this morning and actually you think this is the right day for me to engage with this, but you'd like to watch back in your own time, then that's absolutely fine. We will circulate the recording for you to watch back in your own time. I'd also like to really strongly recommend that you take sort of 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session. Maybe get yourself some fresh air, some lunch, and I'm mindful of the fact that some people are not always able to take this time out due to maybe attending this during a lunch and learn hour. So we'll make sure that if we can, we'll finish a few minutes early so that you get some of that time back. So a little bit about the Compassionate Employers programme if you've not heard about us before. So we launched in 2019, and as I mentioned before, our aim is to ensure that organisations are prepared to support employees through really significant life moments. Since our inception, we've been working with many members and we support over 165,000 employees across the UK. We envision a world where employees and employers feel equipped to really advocate and support their employees through really significant moments in life. And our programme is really built around three key pillars, and that is greater visibility, greater education, and greater opportunity for connection. So these sessions are run in partner with our kind of greater visibility angle of this programme. We know that these topics are really, really important to discuss, that caring roles impact us greatly during our working lives. And so this is a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about carers and how people who are unpaid carers alongside their roles may be impacted in the workplace. And I would really strongly recommend, if you find today's session helpful, to share with your internal networks within the organisation, to send on to line managers, maybe who you know have caring responsibilities, or any other employees within your organisation who maybe have caring responsibilities that you might want to highlight this to. So just to kind of get started, I wanted to just start with some key definitions of things that we are going to touch on throughout today. So a carer is anyone who looks after a family member, a partner, or a friend who needs help because their illness, frailty, disability, mental health struggles, or addiction cannot cope without their support. It's likely that every one of us will have a caring responsibility at some point in our lives in some way, shape, or form. It's very rare for all of us to go through life without any dependencies at all. And many of us will also do this during our working lives, or alongside study or other family commitments. Sandwich carer is a term which is coming up more and more now as we have an aging population and people having children later in life. A sandwich carer defines somebody who has both elderly dependents that they are supporting and young dependents as well, dependent children. Anticipatory grief refers to the feelings of grief or loss that we maybe feel before a loss happens. We often see this in people who are living with a terminal or life-limiting condition, or those who are caring for and anticipating the death of someone that they love. And disenfranchised grief, often misunderstood or invalidated by social norms, but this often is associated with feelings of maybe mourning the life that you thought you might have, loss of identity, loss of job, loss of situation, breakdown of relationships. So something that we probably will all resonate with maybe more on a day-to-day basis. So just to set the scene a little bit in terms of carers in the UK, so every day in the UK, over 600 people leave full-time employment to care for a relative, with an estimated 5.8 million unpaid carers currently across the United Kingdom. 1.4 million of those carers are actually sandwich carers, so looking after an elderly relative, friend, or family member, and also having young dependents as well. And the Carers UK's most recent report on state of caring found that 73% of carers in employment said that they found it really stressful to juggle work and care. And 44% of those had actually reduced their hours or left their work completely so that they could manage their caring responsibilities. So this week is Carers Week, as I mentioned previously, and this year's theme is all about caring about equality. And it's a really good opportunity for us to just reflect on some of the inequalities that those with caring responsibilities face. Because carers often face really unique and complex challenges that can impact lots of different areas of their lives, including their mental health, their financial stability, and also their career progression. So some of the key challenges include the disproportionate impact on women and marginalised groups. So women make up about 60% of unpaid carers, and communities as well from communities of ethnic minorities, and they may also experience additional barriers to support as well due to services not being made for them. Unpredictable and intense time demands means that caring responsibilities don't necessarily fit into a 9-to-5 schedule, and carers are required to be really reactive to the needs of the person that they're caring for. So on good days, this might be that they're able to fit in their time around caring for that person and their working responsibilities. But on bad days, that could be that care is all-consuming. And one of the key reasons that carers leave full-time employment is because they need that flexibility to manage those day-to-day requirements, which isn't necessarily something that all employers are equipped to do. There's a huge mental health strain and burnout within carers. So carers are at much higher risk of stress, anxiety, and depression. It's very exhausting holding down a job whilst you're also navigating a care role. It can sometimes feel like you never get to switch off. And as a consequence, we see really high levels of burnout in people who are juggling both their personal care roles and their professional roles. There's financial consequences. So many carers face reduced hours, they turn down promotions, or they leave jobs entirely, which can really affect kind of lifetime earnings and pension contributions. And additionally, there are many carers who have to rely on additional private caring support, which becomes very costly as well if it's sustained over long periods of time. So many carers don't actually see themselves as carers, and reports show that it takes on average 2 years for most to identify themselves as a carer. Many of us will see that it's our role as a daughter or as a sibling to be looking after somebody. But until the penny drops, you may well see in your employees that they may become overwhelmed and frantic as they try to keep all the plates spinning at once. Sometimes it can be really helpful to be really direct and ask if you can help manage their workload so they can focus on some of their personal affairs. And actually, that can be a real light bulb moment for some employees to help them realise how influential their caring role is and how it might be impacting different areas of their lives. As I mentioned, we have many carers face financial implications. So unfortunately, the health and social care system in the UK has many flaws, and it leaves a real heavy load for caring on families. So this can include paying for additional private care services or support, being forced to reduce hours at work, or indeed leave work altogether. And alongside the cost of living crisis, and for sandwich carers having to consider the cost of childcare too, this can leave families in really difficult financial complications. For carers who remain in work alongside the caregiving roles, they quite simply run out of hours in the week to focus on many other areas in their life. And this can impact their relationships with their friends or their families, their partners or their colleagues. It can also really impact the relationship on with the person that they care for as they shift from that role of being a mother or a daughter or a son into a carer. And it's really common for carers who live in isolation because of this. As a consequence, personal well-being always comes in, and the overall exhaustion of caring for someone that you love can take so much of our capacity that often our personal, physical and mental health really suffers under the pressure. Many people end up sacrificing their passions, their hobbies, and generally just not finding the energy or ability to look after themselves. This can look different for everyone, of course, but it's really important to notice it maybe when you see employees who may be seen withdrawn, frustrated, anxious, or physically looking really worn out and tired. And one that we don't necessarily talk about very often, but one that we like to try and highlight in these sessions is identity. For people who are in caring roles, they may struggle massively with their identity, both at work and in their personal lives. At work, someone who was previously confident, outgoing and driven may seem withdrawn and reserved. And many people we work with really struggle with the fact that they used to be able to do so much. They really love their jobs, they love taking on new projects and tasks, but they simply cannot take on any more responsibilities. They don't have the capacity as their caring role is now taking up such a huge portion of their life. And that can come with its own sense of disenfranchised grief as we struggle with the reality of what this new normal is for us. So we're going to talk a little bit about anticipatory grief, and hopefully this is a term that you maybe have heard of. It's not necessarily one that comes up unless you have been in touch with somebody who is a carer or indeed have been a carer yourself. But anticipatory grief refers to the feelings of grief and loss that we experience sometimes before a loss happens. So what does this look like? Anxiety and worry. So how will my person die? What will the next few months be like? Will this be my last birthday, my last Christmas with them? Will today be a good day or a bad day? Many carers have to work on a day-by-day basis, depending on what the person who they're looking after are dealing with on that particular day. So it can literally be as much as waking up in the morning and just trying to assess on that day, is this going to be a good day or is this going to be a bad day? And what do I need to juggle and manage to make sure that we both get through it? You might see increased irritability, so people feeling like they maybe have a short fuse for silly questions or jobs. I don't want to be involved in this petty argument. I can't believe they're complaining about that when I've got all of these things going on. Many people have a real denial of reality. They bury their heads in the sand. They don't think about the reality of of the end if they're caring for somebody with a life-limiting condition, because it's too much to process. So they're not actually going to die. Maybe things will get better. Maybe we've got more time. Many people feel a huge sense of hopelessness, feeling exhausted and hopeless with the reality that they just can't change the outcome. Failure to fix, we're a society of fixers, and it can be very hard to accept that we can't fix somebody's illness. Lots of people feeling really let down by the system, either in a lack of diagnosis or a lack of support system that comes out. I thought that, I'd be able to get the diagnosis for my person, but actually it's taking all this time, and what would have been the outcome if they had been seen sooner? And so many people feeling incredibly alone in this challenge. Many people will mourn the changes in their loved one's personality or physical appearance before they die. Although this isn't exclusive to, we see it quite often in people who are caring for somebody with cancer or dementia and Alzheimer's. These are quite often discussed as living losses as well. The fact they weren't the person that they were before. And it's important just to highlight that some people may well question their belief and faith, or on the flip side, some people might lean more heavily into it. But many people may think, why would someone want to make me or my loved one suffer like this? Or equally, my faith community has come in and supported me through this, and so therefore leaning much more heavily into those faith beliefs and all of the traditions that come with anticipatory grief as well. Many carers also experience varying levels of disenfranchised grief, as I touched on, because it impacts all levels of our lives. So just a little bit more of a kind of deep dive on what that might look like. We might have people who feel guilty because they can't perform the same way. I'm not able to function the same way that I was before. I'm letting my team down. I'm letting my managers down. In our carers roles, we may also feel real resentment towards the person that we care for, and that can make us feel incredible guilt as well. I was meant to be looking at this other part of my life or focusing on this other part of my life, and now I have this caring role, and we can feel really guilty for feeling like that. Loss of identity. Who am I now that I'm a carer? I'm not the same friend or colleague or partner anymore. And importantly, when you're working with somebody who's living with anticipatory grief, you may well be supporting them following the death of somebody that they care about, and they may well have this identity crisis again. For so many people, caring takes up a huge part of their lives when they're looking after somebody that they love. And if that person then dies, it may take a little while for that person who's been a carer to actually reassess who they are and understand who they are again now that they don't have that caring role. Many people feel anger and grief for the life that they wish that they had. So, I was meant to travel, I was meant to explore, and now I have to stay at home and care for them because I never know, when they might get worse or how things might change. Lots of people experience that real loss of drive and motivation. What's the point? This is never ending. I don't know how long I can keep doing this. And it's just really important to recognize that we see this kind of additional burnout, and we feel so consumed sometimes in our caring role. It can be really, really easy to have that loss of motivation and drive for all different parts of our lives. So when we're looking at working with colleagues who have caring responsibilities, it's really important to be mindful of all of these different things they might be navigating, additionally to just their caring role alongside their professional role, thinking about all these different ways that their caring role may well be impacting them. And I wonder if anyone's heard of this pink flamingo theory, and it's often used to support postpartum mothers. And I think that actually it rings really true for carers too. So flamingos experience a process of physical and emotional transformation during the periods when they're raising young chicks, and they're drained of so much energy and nutrients that they pour into their young, which causes their pink pigment to dull and sometimes to completely disappear. And I think sometimes as a carer, we feel like we've lost our pink. We are relentlessly pouring all of this emotional and physical energy into the person that we care for. happen to those people that we love, and we're trying to make sure that they're okay, putting them first. And for a period of time, it may feel really relentless, that we may never get our pink back. But I think it's really important to use this analogy and remember that as we slowly start to build more capacity, and as we start to look after ourselves and lean on the people around us and get those support systems in place, we do start to slowly get our pink back and return. I'm just going to highlight this model because I think that it's a really powerful one to remember when you're going through anticipatory grief, when you're a carer, but also when you've been bereaved. So this model really helps with the visualization of how grief works for many people. And often carers will experience high levels of grief throughout their lives as they move through really difficult phases of illness with somebody that they care for. So this model highlights how we bounce between loss and restoration. So during our loss days, we may lean really heavily into our grief, sit in the sadness and focus on the life before our loved one got sick. And I often refer to these as duvet days. They may feel days where, you feel so weighted down by this new reality. We cannot peel ourselves off the sofa or out of bed. And we feel really, really weighted down by these really sad emotions. Whereas during our restoration days, we may lean more heavily into making memories with our loved ones whilst they're still here, with those loved ones that we're caring for, and maybe just accepting the fact that this is our new identity as a carer. And I think this model is really helpful for people who are managers and colleagues who are supporting somebody who maybe has caring responsibilities, or if you're working with somebody who has recently experienced a bereavement, because it can help you just highlight how grief can ebb and flow, and actually somebody may seem fine one day and maybe struggle the next. So in the loss stage, somebody may be finding it really hard to concentrate on tasks. They may seem withdrawn in meetings or struggle to socialize with colleagues. But the same employee a few days later may come into work, seem really focused on their tasks, engaging with social events and leaning into project work. So it's really important just to recognize that it's not linear. People may go back and forth, especially during caring roles, as they may go on for weeks or months, sometimes years. And one of the hardest parts of being a carer is that we never really know how long we have left with somebody that we love and that we're caring for. So it's really important that we're able to be reactive to the needs of that person, whether it's a good day or a bad day. And I think quite often we make the mistake of seeing people in those restoration days on good days, and we think, well, they seem fine and they seem to be coping. Maybe they're keeping themselves busy by being at work. But it's really, really crucial that we continue to check in on employees, especially with caring responsibilities and people who are navigating early bereavement too. Whether that's providing space for compassionate conversation, maybe it's flexible working hours, but it's really important to help them manage that caring role alongside their work and create a relationship where you can support them, especially when that person is maybe returning to work following a bereavement, having been a carer for them. Sorry, I realised the writing on the slide is very small, but I just wanted to highlight some of the legal protections that are in place for carers. So many of us don't identify as carers until years after being a carer actively. So I think it's always really important for us to highlight the legal protections that are in place, because there may well be things that you didn't even know that you have access to. So the Carers Leave Act came into force on the 6th of April last year. And this act means that employees are entitled to 1 week unpaid leave to look after somebody that they care for, or a dependent who needs long-term care. Flexible working is also something that came into place on the 6th of April 2024 as well. So you have the right to request flexible working arrangements to help you fulfill your caring responsibilities. So these could be job shares, reduced hours, compressed hours, part-time hours, remote working, all of those sorts of things that you're able to request. and your organisation has to take into consideration and produce a business reason if it was to be rejected. There's also time off in an emergency. So you all have the rights to time off in an emergency when it involves somebody who is dependent on you. So it doesn't actually say, the law doesn't actually stipulate how much time off, but normally it's a week off that you're given. And there is some guidance for line managers that will make sure that we circulate after this as well, in case you are a manager on this call or a HR member who may be looking at implementing any of these or updating the policies of any of these legal protections as well. So we, as an organisation, we strive to live in a world where employers can create carer-friendly workplaces that allow carers to manage their professional roles alongside caring responsibilities. We'd like to encourage carers to be able to continue to work. We know how important that is for many carers to keep that sense of their identity by having these kind of flexible arrangements in place. So we've created a little list of ways that we can create more carer-friendly organisations that can support people working alongside their caring roles outside of work. So implementing flexible working arrangements. So if you're a manager, then advocating and championing flexible working. If you're a carer, then finding out what flexibility is available in your role. As we've mentioned previously, flexibility is really essential for employees who are managing caregiving responsibilities, and it will look different for everyone, but requests such as compressed hours or home working can really significantly impact the ability to carry out caring roles alongside employment. Provide caregiving leave. So this is really for more for HR and line managers. But find out what policies and guidance your employer has in place around carers leave, and make sure that you're utilising leave, especially the legal provisions that are in place as well, and make sure that you know what is in place for your employees if you have carers in your team. Or if you are a carer or somebody with caregiving responsibility, make sure you know what you're entitled to and what kind of support is in place. It may well be that they have enhanced support in place already in your organisation. Provide access to resource and support services, and really important to be signposting. And we can't do everything in the workplace, but there are many, many organisations, and we'll highlight some of them at the end of this, that you'll be able to find additional support to. But explore what support is available for you. As a member of this programme, of the Compassionate Employers member, the Compassionate Employers programme, you have access to our Members Hub, which has a huge host of resources and support on there for people who either have a terminal condition themselves or are supporting somebody who does. A whole caregiving portal as well as a bereavement portal as well. So make sure that you have a look at the Members Hub and have a look at all of the different resources that are on there. Also have a look at what kind of staff networks maybe exist. So if you've got a parents and carers network, or if you've got access to additional support through EAP programs, make sure that you're exploring all of those different routes for support. Fostering a compassionate and supportive work culture is obviously incredibly important. So building really strong and trusting relationship with your teams and your managers can really help support the people in those teams who have caring roles. So trying to make sure, if you're a carer, that your manager understands your caring responsibility. Discuss options for support. We've recently created a Get to Know Me document, which really helps kind of guide that conversation. And we'll share that along with the recording of this session, so you can implement that if it's helpful, just to know how to navigate those conversations and build those really trusting relationships. Promoting mental health and wellbeing is really important. So the Carers UK State of Caring survey obviously found that 79% of carers feel stressed and anxious, and over half of carers have actually reported feeling really depressed. So if you're a manager and you're supporting a carer, or an employee with caring responsibilities, maybe take some extra time to check in on their mental health, extend the one-to-ones once a month so that you've got a little bit of extra time to cover that relationship building and checking in on them properly. And if you are yourself obviously a carer, then make sure that you're trying to prioritize that self-care to protect your well-being as well. And we'll come on to that in a little bit as well. We're a big fan of creating networks and space for connection within organizations because we believe that community is key. So holding space to be vulnerable in the workplace can really often open the door for others to do the same. So networks and work societies can be a really great way to help share experiences. So if you don't already have a carers network in place, maybe explore setting one up. Most carers will suffer in silence, not necessarily identifying themselves as a carer for over 2 years. So these sorts of networks can provide a really great space for people to be able to connect, and maybe identify the support that they maybe need as well. And of course, raising visibility, which, you know, by coming here today, you're helping us do. So with an aging population and health and social care services under increasing pressure, and an aging working population as well, we're expecting to see the number of caregivers in the workplace rise and continue to climb. So creating that greater visibility and education around this topic will really help to not only identify those carers within your workforce, but also be able to get the right support to them when they need it, rather than having it in such a reactionary way as it is at the moment, having things that are proactively there that encourage people to identify when they are carers and reach out for the support that they need. So just think it's really important to highlight carers burnout. So the pandemic and now obviously the cost of living crisis put a huge strain on the health and social care system, and many carers have had to take on additional responsibilities whilst receiving less state support. And as a result, we're seeing their health and wellbeing really suffering. So as part of the recent survey by Carers UK, we found that 73% of carers surveyed said that they were exhausted and burnt out, and 35% said that they said that they used whichever breaks they got from care to do paid works. So we know that families who have caring responsibilities spend on average 44 hours a week caring for loved ones. So you can see how burnout can be so high when we have got people working full time and also additionally caring for, you know, full-time hours outside of those working hours as well. So some of the ways that we maybe recognise burnout: the emotional and physical exhaustion, physically not being able to get up and feeling completely run down, withdrawal from friends and families, colleagues as well. That impact on relationships is really true. The loss of interest in activities that they maybe previously enjoyed, feeling hopeless and helpless. Many people experience changes of appetite, either gaining weight or losing weight, comfort eating, or of course struggling with eating. Many people have sleep disturbances and changes in their sleeping patterns, especially if their caring responsibility includes overnight care. Many people unable to concentrate, people feeling so run down that they're getting sick more often, but also just that general irritability, frustration, and anger towards other people as well. So we're seeing such high levels of burnout, and we're really seeing the impact on people's well-being. So it's important, I suppose, to come on to thinking about looking after ourselves. So we all have a responsibility to look after ourselves and to look after each other. And the reality is, you know, prevention of burnout is much more effective than trying to treat burnout as a reaction. The communication is key. If you're a carer, communicate with your support networks, your friends, your families, your employers, social workers. Lean on the community around you. If you're managing a carer or working with a carer, then don't be afraid to lean into the conversations. Carers are notoriously bad at advocating for their own needs because they're so used to putting others before themselves. So be their advocate. Set those regular check-ins, hold space for vulnerability, and create an environment which is built on trust and honesty, allowing that person to share their needs with you. Try not to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. The responsibility of care largely falls on one individual. So you may be the most caring sibling or the one who has less on. So carers quite often carry a huge weight independently. But remember that to give the best care possible to the person that you love, your cup needs filling too. So ask for help. See what you can be offered through your employer, see what there is in terms of local community groups, families, friends, faith groups, social services. Try to form a network of support for people who can carry you and support you on the really difficult road that is being a carer. Try and be informed. So if you want to be the best carer you can possibly be, then seek all of the information you can from experts and learn about the best ways to look after yourself and the person you care for. Lean on professionals and charities that are there, the community groups that can help you manage those day-to-day activities or provide some kind of respite. Try wherever you can to prioritize personal health and well-being. This one's always the hardest one to do. Yeah, every day our emotional, physical, cognitive cup is overflowing. So where can we find place for self-care? But this is where having that support network is really important. So even just being able to go for a walk, to eat a home cooked meal, to read a book, to listen to a podcast. Self-care doesn't have to be these really huge acts of little actions can make a huge impact. So, building that capacity is really, really important. And this last one is really important, and that's making space to honor your feelings. Caring is a lot, takes a huge toll on our lives, and it's okay if you don't love it. If you secretly wish that it would all be over so that you could finally have some space for the life that you thought that you had to live. Make sure you honor those emotions. It's okay. You can give them space, you can give them time. You can't outrun them. So bottling them up can lead to higher risk of burnout and illness. So wherever you can, making space for those emotions, and honoring them, sometimes writing them down or saying them out loud can be really helpful just to create some space for them. So just self-care is really hard, and I think one of the activities that we came across was this one, which I think really helped break down what self-care was and how we could kind of keep to it. So things that help you relax, things that energize you, things that make you happy. So like for me personally, things that help me relax are things like being outside, walking, cooking, listening to music or listening to a podcast. Things that energize me might be going to the gym, going for a dog walk or for a run. And the things that make me happy, spending time with my family, my friends, those sorts of things, breaking them down into independent chunks can be really, really helpful. So I'd really encourage you to just take a second to think about each of these areas and jot down maybe what you would do to help with your self-care. And actually, if anybody's willing to share, it'd be really lovely to hear any reflections on this. Thanks so much, Craig, for sharing some of the support that you've got in your organisation. That's really helpful. Has anybody got any self-care that they'd be happy to share, that they find helpful? I am not much of an artist, but I love the fact that you use art. I know that colouring in books can be really helpful, or paint by numbers, I think, is another good one. Okay, exercise and dancing, absolutely. Dancing it out can be really, really helpful. But a Zumba, maybe moving your body can be a really brilliant way. Yeah, the gym, meditating. And I think that's it. Sometimes it's just identifying um, those sorts of things, and you quite quickly realize when we haven't been prioritizing them, how quickly our mental health starts to decline. Listening to music, absolutely. I'm the same, Sarah. I can definitely disappear onto a playlist that can really help give me some space as well. So just wanted to highlight this as a Compassionate Employers member, you have access to our hub, and we will make sure that all of the links are shared after this. But this is just this kind of snapshot of what is on the hub for carers. So we've got a breakdown of, your rights at work, carers leave, requesting flexible working, parental leave, emergency leave, protection from discrimination, telling your employer and line manager, telling your colleagues, arranging extra support, but also some advice in terms of if you're struggling to stay in work as well. So we hopefully have lots and lots of resource on there that can help. And if there's ever anything that comes up that isn't on our hub, we would love for you guys as members to just let us know so that we can continue to update it with anything that is relevant. Yeah, some really nice reflections here. Having a cut-off point in the evening from everything is absolutely really, really important. Having that protective time can make a huge difference. Yeah, having a good old sing in the car is a great shout as well. Yeah, making the time for yourself to have a break, get some fresh air, have a quick walk, really helpful as well. The link will be shared, so each of you will independently have a link for your organisation. So we'll make sure that each of the organisations that are on here will have their unique links linked to them. So I just want to highlight some of the external support systems as well. So Carers UK has a huge website of resources and signposting. They also have a helpline. Age UK additionally has a huge amount of online resource. They also have local centres across the UK where you can go to get some advice and signposting for support in your area. If you're looking for respite, if you're looking for additional communities to engage with, or community groups to support you, then they can be a really brilliant signposting tool. Alzheimer's Society is brilliant if you are living with or caring for somebody who has Alzheimer's or dementia. They have a huge amount of information and resource on their website for anticipatory grief and processing. They also have lots of wonderful online forums where you can connect with other people who are also in the same position as you, either with a diagnosis or people who are caring for somebody with a diagnosis. And that can be a really, really wonderful space for reaching support and finding your community of people who are also going through the same thing. And Marie Curie also have a helpline and an online chat forum that you can join in to have any conversations about people that you're caring for with a terminal or life-limiting condition as well. And Marie Curie, I think historically people always think that it's cancer only, but actually they welcome people who are looking after anybody with any kind of illness or just from frailty or old age as well. So there's no kind of restrictions around who can access these types of support. And thank you for the lovely feedback. I'm really glad that it's been helpful to hear from other people, and some of the reflections of today have been helpful today. I suppose my final comment is to say well done. If you're a carer, then I really applaud you. I cared for my dad for 4 years whilst he lived with terminal cancer, and I didn't identify myself as a carer right up until after he died. I didn't realise that I'd just given 4 years of my life for it. I just kind of thought that it was my role to do. So it's really hard, but it's such an honour to look after people when they need us. So try to look after yourselves, try to communicate with the people around you, and continue to raise that visibility and awareness of this and how it impacts people. So if we've got any questions, we are more than happy to take any questions. And if not, then you're welcome to head off and get yourself a nice 15-minute break away from the screen. Thanks so much. If there's no questions, I will end the call and we will circulate the recording. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me directly, feel free to pop me an email. I will make sure that my email is in the comment box. Thanks all.